Several Tokyo Bay officials inspect an abandoned yacht named Glory Maru that has been drifting for some time. They find no one on board, only documents scattered on the table. Since there are no signs of an attack, they suspect the passengers jumped into the sea. During the inspection, a sudden tremor shakes the area. At the same time, an underwater tunnel around Tokyo Bay begins to leak, throwing traffic into chaos. The city braces for an unknown threat. This is Shin Godzilla. The Japanese government responds quickly. In Tokyo, Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Rando Yaguchi asks officers for the cause of the leak. Authorities admit they have no clear answer. They report only thick smoke near the tremor site. Some officials suggest an underwater volcanic eruption. Disaster response forces close Tokyo Bay and evacuate residents. Soon after, Prime Minister Seiji Okochi meets with officials about the strange tremor. Yaguchi voices his concern that something unusual is happening under the sea. Many others still believe it is ordinary volcanic activity. Okochi leads a follow-up meeting with experts. They report no recent volcanic activity in Tokyo Bay, which increases suspicion of another cause. In the middle of the meeting, television broadcasts show a massive tail rising from the bay. Panic spreads through the room. Officials quickly call biologists from universities to study the creature. Government officials argue for extermination to protect the public. The biologists urge capture for research. The creature moves along the river, smashing bridges and damaging ships. Deputy Director of the Nature Conservation Bureau Hiromi Ogashira reports that it has gills and legs, so it can walk on land. Officials then advise Prime Minister Seiji Okochi to address the nation to calm public fear. Okochi speaks at a press conference, urging people to stay calm and suggesting the creature might die when it reaches shallow waters. Midway through his remarks, he receives urgent news that the giant has already reached land and is destroying the city. He immediately announces the creation of an emergency disaster commission to protect the public. Outside, the creature continues toward Tokyo. Officials warn that if it reaches the capital, the damage will be severe. The government decides the creature must be stopped at once. The Minister of Defense calls for a full evacuation of Tokyo. Governor Kozuka orders his staff to begin moving residents and asks Okochi to send defense forces to hold the creature back. Okochi weighs the request. A reckless attack could devastate the city and end his career. He hesitates as a minister proposes asking for American help. Okochi rejects foreign involvement and directs his team to handle the crisis on their own. After careful review, Okochi declares a military emergency. For the first time since World War II, the Army, Navy, and Air Force mobilize. Commanders gather to plan the assault. Defense forces begin assisting with the evacuation. Helicopters take off to monitor the operation. During the process, the creature pauses, then rises and evolves, standing on two legs. Helicopters prepare to fire, but civilians remain nearby. Okochi cancels the attack to prevent casualties. The creature retreats to the sea. Scientists from several countries arrive to study it. Meanwhile, defense forces plan a coordinated strike should the creature return. They work with experts, including biologist Hasama, who warns that the creature may evolve again. His team analyzes fluid samples and confirms that all remaining traces at the site have already decayed, leaving only a strong fishy odor. A few days later, Yaguchi learns of nuclear radiation detected along the coast. Local authorities confirm no reactor leaks, but an officer presents a graph showing radiation levels rising in step with the creature's movements. Yaguchi reports this to Okochi, warning that the radiation threatens civilians. Soon after, U.S. envoys Kyoko and Peterson meet Yaguchi. Kyoko asks him to gather information on Dr. Goro Maki, a researcher who studied the creature years earlier and may know its history. Yaguchi orders his team to track Maki's records. They discover that Maki owned the Glory Maru yacht found near the coast. He gives Kyoko the last notes recovered from the ship. She shares additional American files naming the creature Godzilla. Meanwhile, Officer Yusuke Shimura quietly works with a journalist to dig deeper into Maki's past. Their findings reveal that Godzilla's origin links to Japan's nuclear waste dumping 60 years earlier. Maki and other researchers had analyzed Godzilla's body and confirmed its ability to mutate and adapt. The next day, Kyoko presents a paper left by Maki, an analysis of Godzilla's body layers. Using this data, Yaguchi's team searches for weaknesses and learns that Godzilla contains elements of extreme energy. The United States pushes to join the research. Yaguchi remains focused on stopping the monster. He believes Godzilla is a living organism with exploitable weaknesses despite its rapid evolution. Further study shows a nuclear reactor inside its body and fins that regulate temperature. This explains why Godzilla returned to the sea after evolving, to cool itself. Based on these findings, Yaguchi proposes injecting a freezing agent to immobilize the creature and quickly calls another meeting to plan the operation. Soon after, reports confirm that Godzilla has returned to land. Residents evacuate as the now larger creature heads toward Tokyo and is expected to arrive within hours. Officials warn that if it reaches the city's nuclear facility, an explosion could contaminate the capital with radiation, forcing the government to act immediately. Because Yaguchi's freezing plan needs more time, Prime Minister Okochi orders the defense forces to attack. Helicopters and tanks move into position as Godzilla approaches. After confirming that civilians have left the city, helicopters open fire. The first barrage has no effect. Missiles strike its head, but the creature shows no reaction. Tanks fire from the ground while helicopters drop bombs, causing massive explosions. The attacks fail. Godzilla counters by hurling a bridge, crushing several tanks. The defense forces run out of ammunition as Godzilla continues forward. With no other options, the Minister of Defense urges Okochi to request American support. Okochi agrees. The American ambassador quickly reports that U.S. aircraft are en route. Once Okochi learns that heavy bombs will be used, he orders all remaining residents to evacuate to underground stations. During the evacuation, Godzilla topples power poles, plunging the city into darkness. Ministers press Okochi to leave as well, warning that Japan will face deeper chaos if it loses its leader. They note that the governor of Tokyo now holds authority to oversee the response. Okochi reluctantly boards a helicopter. Meanwhile, Yaguchi and his team attempt to leave Tokyo by car. Traffic jams block their route, so Yaguchi and Shimura exit to help guide citizens out before the American strike begins. Moments later, American aircraft bomb Godzilla's back. The impact triggers a terrifying reaction. Fire erupts from the creature's back and mouth, transforming into laser beams that slice through nearby buildings. Undeterred, the aircraft continue the assault. Godzilla releases another barrage of lasers, destroying the American planes and striking the helicopter carrying the Prime Minister and several ministers. After this final outburst, the creature suddenly stops moving and appears to fall into a deep sleep. With the attack over, radiation levels in Tokyo rise sharply, forcing residents to remain indoors for several days. Yaguchi and Shimura reach a temporary base outside the city and begin monitoring the creature, which lies dormant near Tokyo Station. The scale of destruction leaves Japan short on manpower, equipment, and infrastructure. The crisis deepens as Prime Minister Okochi and several ministers are confirmed dead. In response, party leader Yusuke Satomi becomes interim prime minister, and Yaguchi is appointed head of the joint mission against Godzilla. He urges his team to continue the fight and remains confident that freezing the creature is possible. Private companies are asked to produce large quantities of freezing agents, which scientists test on samples taken from Godzilla. During a meeting with the new prime minister, Kyoko reports that the international community wants an international organization to take control of the operation. A joint research team of Japanese and American scientists is formed to support the effort. To advance the freezing plan, Yaguchi sends special forces to collect additional tissue from Godzilla. They secure a sample, leading to a critical discovery: the creature can reproduce by splitting itself. If unchecked, such reproduction could threaten human survival. The United States proposes an atomic bomb strike. Japanese officials object, recalling the devastation of World War II, but the United Nations Security Council approves the plan, putting Japan under heavy pressure to accept despite the risk. Soon after, Foreign Minister Akasaka informs Yaguchi of America's decision. Yaguchi asks for a delay, explaining that his team is developing a freezing agent for Godzilla. Akasaka refuses, warning that the plan is uncertain and that other nations may withdraw support if Japan acts alone, which would damage Japan's credibility. Yaguchi briefs his team on the atomic bomb plan. One researcher warns that a nuclear strike could strengthen Godzilla because the bomb's energy matches the creature's power source. Yaguchi urges everyone to finish the freezing agent before the bombing deadline. The team succeeds in creating an effective agent and begins large-scale production. Yaguchi reminds them to stay focused, convinced they can defeat the monster without nuclear weapons. International scientists report to Interim Prime Minister Satomi that Godzilla is sleeping to recharge and will likely awaken in 2 weeks. The United States demands a full evacuation before launching the bomb within that period. Evacuating 3.6 million people at once frustrates Satomi and his staff, but he orders the use of all transport routes by land and sea to speed the process. Meanwhile, researchers at the Godzilla Response Office continue their analysis. They uncover a detailed record of the creature's structural layers left by Dr. Maki and use it to have a German lab model Godzilla's structure with quantum computing. The results confirm that the freezing agent has a strong chance of success. With this evidence, Izumi, the Prime Minister's advisor, reports to Satomi that Yaguchi's plan is ready and asks for approval. Satomi hesitates because a United Nations resolution already authorizes an atomic bomb strike, but Izumi argues that allowing a third atomic bomb on Japan for another country's interests would be an insult. Akasaka supports this view, saying Japan can handle the crisis without foreign control. After considering their arguments, Satomi authorizes the freezing mission. Time is short and production of the freezing agent is not yet complete. Japan uses its international contacts to request a one-day delay of the American bombing schedule. Kyoko meets with a U.S. officer to support the request. Her efforts succeed. The American military agrees to postpone the bombing and offers help with the freezing operation. Once the freezing materials are ready, the mission begins. Yaguchi monitors the operation from a rooftop. An unmanned train detonates near Godzilla to wake the creature. American drones launch airstrikes. Godzilla counters with laser beams from its back, destroying many drones. As more drones attack, the monster fires lasers from its tail and mouth. When Godzilla's energy drops, Yaguchi's team collapses nearby buildings onto the creature and moves in with trucks carrying the freezing agent. They spray the substance into Godzilla's mouth. Midway through the process, Godzilla awakens and destroys much of the fleet with more lasers. Though still mobile, the creature shows signs of weakness. Additional train bombs strike from several directions, forcing Godzilla to fall. Trucks return to continue spraying the freezing agent. Godzilla rises again, prompting troops to retreat, but its strength fades. As it stands upright, its body begins to freeze. The operation succeeds. Relief spreads through the team. Godzilla is immobilized, though its body will take 2 to 3 years to fully break down. Tests show that the radioactive residue around the city is already decomposing, allowing for faster recovery of Tokyo. In the final scene, several small humanoid forms emerging from Godzilla's tail are revealed to be frozen in place. So the moral of the story is, if a giant lizard shows up, don't waste time arguing about who's in charge, just freeze the thing before it turns your city into a nightlight.